Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Interlinked, powered by Shrapnel. What's up, crypto gamers? I'm pleased to share I've got some updates on Shrapnel. First off, in regard to the litigation, they are open to a reasonable settlement, but they are determined to protect their rights in court and share that they have strong lawyers who will be there to protect them. That statement was shared on their Twitter. Now, on the game side, they have a event planned for the end of November where people are going to be able to dive back into the sacrifice zone for 7 days straight. This event will be aimed at celebrating the community in the last year that they had, and they're going to pack that week full of prizes. There's going to be digital rewards. There's even going to be physical rewards. I hear rumors about controllers and graphic cards, and there's going to be some updates to gameplay too. So they're going to have Revolver, they're going to have a new AR, and I even hear there's going to be a big announcement that week. So certainly stay tuned for more details. When we have a date to share, we will certainly share it. Huge shout out to our sponsor, Playa3ull Games. They are inspired by gamers and funded by their community. They have a epic game on the Epic Games Store, a third-person shooter called Nexus. Hop on in there and check that out. They're also currently selling nodes, so if you're interested, check that out at their website, playable.games. That is a 3 instead of a B on Playable. Now strap in for the rest of this episode of Interlinked. Today is going to be our special holiday episode. We're going to talk about some current events. We're going to talk about the year in review. I am joined here by Jared, my co-host today. How we doing today, brother?
Doing great. Happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays indeed. It's actually the perfect setting for the holiday episode. It is dumping snow here in Connecticut outside my window. So I'm feeling in the holiday spirit. Let's talk about some coal that got delivered by the Hogsheadcheese Santa Claus. I know you had read up on the case. I thankfully didn't get burned. I actually, funnily enough, was talking at Thanksgiving because for one reason or another, the Hogsheadcheese girl has been like just like a running like family joke on that side of the family. And I was like, guys, follow up from this summer. She's dropping a meme coin. I was actually bullish on it. Like as far as meme coin go, I'm like, oh dude, like her meme is so strong. The Hogsheadcheese, it resonated. It had cooled off quite a bit. But I certainly did not expect it to leave as smoking. I expected it to end in a smoking crater because that's my baseline expectation for meme coins. I did think it was going to pump first. So, Jared, dive into the details around the Hogsheadcheese failure.
There's Berwick Law. Berwick Law is a law firm that handles, crypto scams. They typically do a like contingency fee. Shout out to them. But I will say they signed up a few plaintiffs, and I believe yesterday, the 19th, they filed their lawsuit against the Tua Foundation company, which is in the Cayman Islands, of course. And there's a few other entities that are, I believe, in Hong Kong that sort of were the launch pad for the coin. And so essentially, she brought out the coin and she tweeted that or X'd. What is it? Still a tweet? It's a good question. I don't know.
I think
She sent
technically it's a post, but
a
like, how are we
post.
going to get rid of tweet?
Yeah, it's tweet's so good. I'm sorry, Elon, but so she tweeted that they didn't give anything away to any coals. They didn't sell any tokens. Who knows if that's true or not? But anyway, it went up to like almost $500 million in value, and then precipitously dropped. This is like this was like one of the quickest pump and dump meme coins I've seen in a long time, just like straight up, straight down. So the lawsuit essentially is saying that this is a security. They didn't register it properly. It is an investment contract, which is, not always the best thing to say that a meme coin is, especially, in the current SEC environment. I think we'll, again, get a lot more clarity on that, in the new year and then certainly in the new administration, and, asking for damages. So I don't know, man. I didn't buy it. It was one of those. I probably would have. I'm with you. I mean, I think it's a great meme, and it would have been awesome if they had done it maybe a little bit differently, and not, done the pump and dump and, I mean, she posted about it a few times, and I believe talked to Mark Cuban, I believe, on her podcast, to kind of go through what was going to happen. And there it is, smoking crater.
Dude, Mark Cuban just taking another L. Dude, let's hope 2025 is better for Cuban. He's taking L's
Yeah.
left and right. Um, so did you like get into the like facts at all around like I saw a lot of sort of talk around like the team selling tokens too early. Did you get like a feel for like what really the crux of the like rug was?
So no, that there's not a lot of allegations inside the petition itself or the complaint, other than it's a security. It wasn't registered. It was a pump and dump. She was part of it. They didn't specifically say where anything was sold or what wasn't sold. Essentially, just that the plaintiffs invested in it and lost all their money because the value is so low. Now, I think that's going to be super important as to when the team was able to sell. Was there any, premature selling? Did they, in fact, get all these free tokens and then dump them at the high point on all the quote unquote investors? I don't know. I mean, we don't have any facts here. Interestingly enough, today, I believe Haley Welch tweeted that she's actually working with Berwick Law and said, if you lost any money, please contact them, which is interesting. I
Hmm.
don't remember a time where a defendant posted, please contact the plaintiff's law firm and give them a call. But hey, that's extremely transparent on her behalf, and maybe it goes to the fact that they didn't sue her personally. And even further, maybe she feels like she may have been victimized in a way. I don't know. There was no, there's no anything filed on her behalf yet or her company's behalf. So perhaps that may be the issue is, who she teamed up with and what happened. That's, is what the legal landscape is sort of coming out to be with the tweet and everything. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how it develops. That's a huge part of it is who she partnered with because, it didn't seem, I know she's been sort of like tweeting about Bitcoin and like getting into the, sort of like crypto landscape a little bit, but like she does not strike me as a sophisticated like crypto sleuth. So you got to imagine like some partner came in and was like, you can make all this money. Look at Iggy, look at, X, Y, and Z. And then yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this develops. Is there any precedent set around this? Just this phrase is ridiculous, but meme coin law around around like
Oh, love it.
if it doesn't have a use and you're saying it's not a security and it's just a for fun shits and giggles coin, like are there any sort of like precedent around like can you just pump and dump that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Berwick is trying to say that this is not that. This is something more than that. This is sort of her token that's going to rise and fall based on her media empire and her reach. So they're trying to say that this is connected to her. And not only that, but it's really sort of an investment, not necessarily as equity into her company, but their sort of argument is that it's so much tied to her that if she does well and makes all these things, that she'll use this as like a promotion and that it'll rise based on her fame. So, it's not exactly the same as, say, like a DAO and, all the assets of, her company would be in the DAO. And then, say the podcast was owned by the DAO and then they would have this fractional ownership. This is entirely different. Now I didn't see a lot of like if you go to Mog, right? It's a great example. It's like or Dog with Hats, even better because it's like it's literally a dog with hat. It's really funny. So if you go to their website, it has all this like legal stuff and it's all scratched out. And it's like it's literally a dog with a hat. So it's like very clear that this is just for fun. It doesn't do anything. It's not tied to anyone or anything. And That's not an investment contract. I mean, there's no, third party that's going to be, putting out their efforts and, making money for you. Whereas his, Berwick's argument is that it's tied to Haley, and how she does is, how the coin's going to do. And it's tied to her efforts, and that the investors had no effort put into it. They just bought in, expected her to do her thing. It would rise, and then they would make money. So it's not a bad argument on their behalf. I think it's probably the best one to make, honestly. But as far as the law on that, I mean, meme coins themselves are just like a whole new world where, if you're putting out there, this is nothing, it's just out there for fun. And I think the key to it is if you have a, sort of a launch where anyone can get in, you don't pre-sell anything. Even better would be if you don't even hold any, that you go out on the market and buy them yourself if you're the creator. I mean, that's super. It's the best way to do it out there. Just put it all out there and then go buy some yourself if you want and see what happens. And then it's just
Oh,
truly
that's
a
so
meme.
interesting.
Yeah.
So have like essentially one foundation, like set up the token, set up the liquidity pool, and then if you want it to be like sort of your token, you come in at, early in the game and just buy up your chunk of it. Oh, that's super
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and if you create it, you just let it all out and say, look, if there's no one that owns it, it's just going to sit there in the smart contract forever, and it'll just buy and sell, and it won't do anything else. But if you're into it, you could even have, hey, if you guys want to create a community around it or a Discord, go ahead. And the creator may even join in and say, hey, I created it, but I let it out in the world, and I have nothing to do with it now. I'm just an owner, just like you.
Now, obviously, to shamelessly plug my favorite lawyer, you do have a crypto firm. Is anyone interested in launching a meme coin? Should they reach out, or is that outside of what you guys are
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, we would love to help with that. And we've done that before. And reach out to us, and we'd be happy to, talk you through what we think is the best way to do it in 2024 and 2025, and kind of go from there.
And where should people go if they want to get started?
TheQuantumCouncil.com.
Hell yeah. So reach out to Quantum Council to at least get some counsel so you can at least look before you step, which does not seem to be common in the meme coin space. Um,
No, and look, to be fair, if you're a celebrity, don't just run out and find the first person you talk to create a coin. Spend some time, do some research. Definitely look at the Hawk and see what happened, and do something a little different. That's my suggestion.
Now, speaking of craters, this is being recorded on Friday, December 20th. We have just seen probably the most aggressive pullback after, some of this extreme bullishness getting sent over, 100K. I think we tapped as much as 108K. Right now, Bitcoin, I think, is trading under 96K. So we're seeing like, a little bounce in some meme coin or a little bounce in the general market, bounce in Bitcoin. It's going to be interesting. That seemed to all be triggered. It was either, it's always tough to see if like, I think the market just moves and then people look for like reasons like after the fact, but it seemed to have coincided with Powell's presser. And despite the fact that they cut, it seems, the chances for future cuts have certainly been reduced from a swap standpoint. So that was painful. What about you personally? Did you get sucked into the FOMO near the top and took a little boo-boo on this one, or how'd that go?
Yeah, well, I sort of I ended up getting out almost. Well, I say almost. I have some, and that is in my decentralized wallets. It's too hard. I'm just not going to do that. I have some on Coinbase, and that's what I will, if you want to call it, actively trade. But I was almost out when it was like, say, 105 or so, because I figured, hey, it's got to have a pullback. And then it went up to 8, and I was like, no, I'm not. Just see, I have a little bit. And then when it went down recently, like a few days ago, I bought in, and then it went down way more than I thought it would. So I got sucked into the dip. And then the next dip, which is where I guess where we are now, that we're sort of inching out of. I still have a little bit to go before I'll get back to break even on the recent one. But yeah, I agree with you. Like when it dumps, they look for it. It definitely did coincide with Jerome Powell saying, well, there could be inflation and potentially we may not cut as much as we thought. And, I think people are wondering if the Bitcoin reserve is coming out, even though EU now was like, hey, we're interested in a Bitcoin reserve too. So, I think the headwinds are not as much as people think. And it's just, and I love Eric Crown and his sort of analysis on it, where, because he's like one of the honest to me guys who's like, if this happens, if this happens, I don't know what's going to happen. And, he thinks that if it goes down here and sort of has a long consolidation, that it'll sort of make the entire, run a little bit longer, or it could be end quicker if it just keeps shooting up and hits like this large number. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a guy who handles a lot of TA, but I think he's good and has some good insight on that. I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so from a macro standpoint, like, and a lot of this is heavily inspired by Darius Dale. So I always try and give him as many shout outs as I can. He's at 42 macro, does really good macro analysis. I've been, following along for a couple years now and now using his signals to trade like a significant amount of my net worth, using like Bitcoin, SPY, gold, um, all in the traditional markets. But essentially, like, if you use history as a guide, like we have not seen the end of inflation. There aren't really any cases where inflation has been brought back durably to trend without a recession. And, there's a lot of good sort of like thinkers around that who are saying that we never even really got to restrictive policy, and that we, are far, far below what maybe even the neutral rate is as things like currently stand. So, between that, you've got Trump's policies, which we're starting to try and figure out like what's rhetoric, what is going to be actual policy. I mean, really looking at Doge, for instance, how successful is Doge going to be at cutting costs? But those costs are government spending. So government spending obviously does generate, influx into the economy. So if you're spending less on the government, that could be a headwind. You've got immigration. Conservative numbers seem to indicate, like during Biden's administration, 8 million people migrated to the United States. Let's say all illegal migration gets curbed, what's left in legal migration? How does that affect, employee costs, which obviously translates to inflation? So there's a lot of interesting things. Then, of course, tariffs. How are tariffs going to affect things? How's that going to affect inflation? So sort of what it seemed like is, we're going to have to slay this inflationary dragon. Is that going to happen halfway through this year? I think we just got a little, maybe a preview, or, you can't rule out the fact that it could start early, of the market having to price in higher inflation and rates that are higher for longer. So it's going to be super interesting. There's definitely a lot of, I think coming into 2023, there are a lot of green lights flashing, and now you're getting like sort of like a lot of mixed signals. For me personally, like where I'm putting my money, I'm still, sort of holding, still like very invested in the market. So, my financial bet as things currently stand. And if the signals continue to deteriorate, I'm going to have to cut at some point. But as right now that I'm positioned is that this is a dip, and that, we're going to get another leg up either, late December or, some point in Q1. But, Q2, if we do get another leg up, I'm going to really be looking that, gift horse in the mouth and be like, okay, dude, is it time to slaughter this bitch?
Now a word from our sponsors.
What's up, crypto gamers? Shout out to our sponsor, Myria. Myria is revolutionizing Ethereum-based gaming with its powerful L2 scaling solution. Think zero gas fees, instant transactions, free NFT minting, and more. Myria offers a suite of tools that are tailor-built for game development, including game-specific SDKs, a spec'd-out marketplace, Web3 spiked leaderboards, new AI super tools, and more. All this fueled by a fleet of player-run nodes that are a breeze to operate and pump out daily rewards for supporting the ecosystem. Plus, check out Meta Rush, the Battle Royale obstacle runner by Myria Studios, dropping very, very soon.
Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I mean, if you think about, how many federal employees there are, and how much money is spent just on goods and services. Keep out of everything else, just like the actual running off the government offices, right? I mean, all the different people that they employ and all the things that you need in a regular office. If you just think about that, that is an outstanding amount of money that is potentially it could be cut. So, and I'm pretty sure that we've had a few times in our history where the government the government spending went down a little, nothing major, but to me what they're talking about is something on an entirely different scale, and this has never happened in our history. So we'll have to see what it'll look like if they're talking some in the first year 20-30% cut. I mean, that would be unbelievable on the economy. And what do they do with the employees? Who knows what that'll do to the markets? To me, it seems like it would be in a way good, but at the same time, but it could mean inflation coming down even if there's a lot less spending. I mean, that is going to be interesting. And, I think Jerome Powell is going to have, if I don't know if he'll still be here, but if he's where he is now at the Fed, we'll see what his guidance is going to be when all these changes start. And I'm really curious to see what he's going to say. And after the everything's in and maybe Doge starts making some cuts, what his speeches will be like. I'm curious.
And of course, like all that has to be balanced against, the bullish forces of, institutions adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet, countries potentially adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet, the strategic Bitcoin reserve. It's if this was easy, everyone would do it. So, and the thing that also makes things complicated is markets tend to rip hardest before they crash. So, it's going to be an interesting 2025. And, as Becker always says, most people end up leaving with a big fat L in crypto. But for those who, navigate these waters correctly, it can be a pretty crazy game.
Yeah. The question is, does it keep going up? Does it consolidate for a while and go up later? When is the high going to be? Obviously, nobody knows, and that's always the best the best guess. And some people nail it, and most people don't.
No doubt. Other interesting stuff on the news front. I did just see that PAL had an absolutely savage bounce back today. It's up, I think, 25% in the last hour of me last checking because they just announced a partnership with Intel. So
Wow.
that's been a bit of a roller coaster ride, but does sort of show, that people on the or large sort of companies are starting to get in on this sort of crypto AI narrative, which is obviously exciting. Interesting just story around PAL because they had just taken an absolute beating after announcing some sort of like weird token swap semi merger with like a larger AI company that gave the entire market indigestion, and PAL sold off super hard. So it does show that sometimes those are super good opportunities, sometimes it's a long grind down to damn near zero. These AI sort of like tokens have certainly been some like expert level trading, but really really cool to see Intel giving a crypto AI company the nod.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I'm looking now, and yeah, it's up quite a bit. One of the other interesting ones is OPSEC, who I think maybe some of the new people who are getting into it are like pumping that one because it's an AI coin and it's relatively well known. And I know they had some issues, back in I guess what July-ish, where there was I guess like a hack or something that went on, and they plummeted I think almost 90% down. But it's still, I look at it because it's still on my radar whenever I pull up my AIs and I see that it's still, it's coming in, it's hanging in there. But that news on PAL is absolutely amazing. And I'm curious to see how that partnership plays out. And I mean, that to me legitimizes a lot of what people were thinking, that AI is just going to be such a huge part of crypto and that it's going to start bleeding into Web 2. And I think that's a great example of that, and would love to see how that plays out.
No, totally. And it's funny you bring up OPSEC. That is my biggest L of this cycle so far. I bought in like AI mania, whenever that was, maybe like early summer. And then, yeah, OPSEC had that hack. Then like it took forever to list the V2. Then there were lots of allegations around a rug. It has now been, corrected on CoinMarketCap, and it seems like they're trying to get traction, but I am sitting 92.69% loss on OPSEC. So
Wow.
that is
Yeah.
one of the good examples of, yeah, you better count on some of these early projects to go to zero or damn near close to it.
Yeah. I mean, if operations is sort of in your name and operations is what kind of got hacked, it's, I think, hard to sort of, come back from something like that. And I mean, I know it was almost like $3, I think, at some point, and now it's like, I mean, it's up 13 cents. I know it was down to like a penny for a while. So who knows? We'll see what happens, and hopefully some people will make some of their money back. But yeah, I lost on that one as well, and that was one of the darlings in the beginning. Like, oh, this is going to be such a big hitter, and I guess Pal seemed to be the one who actually got it done. So congratulations on them and that team.
Yeah, no doubt. And sort of shows that I'm glad I spread out my chips when it came to the AI sector to sort of absorb, some of those big L's. And it does seem now that, we've seen a couple legs up since the bottom in this like bullish sort of like pattern. Obviously, Bitcoin's been ripping and a lot of the AI coins were, getting close to like all-time highs. But it really shows that like it's a dangerous space, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And I think interestingly enough, I think PAL is available on the Coinbase wallet, but not on Coinbase itself. So I wonder, since this is happening, if it'll move over to Coinbase. How they've been listing a lot of things a lot more quickly now. And I think that, just like 4 years ago, if something gets listed on Coinbase or Binance, that's a big push up. So that's, I think, if that's coming in its future, that may be another big wave up for it. So.
And then to shift over to like the gaming side, which hasn't gotten as much attention yet. I know people are sort of like speculating in like 2025 could be the time of the gaming. I will say on the traditional gaming markets, they've been ripping. Like as far as there's been some great, great games that have been announced like recently or came out. I don't know if any of your boys, I'm noticing the Hulk in the background. I don't know if any of your boys or you got a chance to play Marvel Rivals yet. But that shit is
Yes.
sick.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So my older son Miles came and said, "Oh, there's this new game and you can play with all these characters." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then Keaton, my other son, downloaded it, so they started playing together. And I haven't played it, but I was in the room watching them play, and I was like, "This game is awesome. This is so much fun." There's like, you pick your character, and it like is really dependent on you being able to play that style and type of character, and you have to take over a common area and fight, and it's great. I love that game. It is awesome. I'm really excited, and I think that was a free download, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, free download. And I was like blown away because very rarely do you see like a game out the gate get all the important things right. And they didn't get everything right. Of course, everyone's going to be able to like nitpick and balancing and like yada yada, or some like bugs in the game. But they had obviously amazing IP. They then paired that with one of the best like user interface experiences and like user tools. Like crossplay is flawless, like instantaneously being able to, search based on your Marvel sort of like username or gamer tag and like being able to pull that up easily, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox or PC. All the crossplay working wonderfully. They're like social aspects where after any game, you can go and select like the highlights. You can watch gameplay on people on the top of the leaderboards. I know a lot of my buddies were like, okay, I want to be a Doctor Strange main, which while we're dropping some alpha, Doctor Strange is goaded. Um, and so they just go to the leaderboards and they're like, okay, who's the best Doctor Strange player? Let me watch a few of his or her games and be able to pick up on those tactics. So it was really, really cool to see all of that like come together.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic game, and I 100% agree. I can't think of one that was so good out of the gate and just like it's just fun. I mean, even watching it, I was just like, this is cool. I was like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. I believe Iron Fist is a favorite, and then Hawkeye was also. If you're sitting in the back sniping people from up top, Hawkeye's pretty good.
And then I fill the healer role. So huge shout out to Cloak and Dagger. Super, super cool healer where you like switch between the two forms. And when you're like Dagger, you've got just all these sick heal abilities. And then like Cloak has some like great offensive and like immovability, like invincibility like moves that you can like quickly pull everybody into like the shadow zone so they can't get hurt. So that's been super, super fun. I've always loved like back to the battlefield days, filling that like support healer role because it's the one that like most people usually don't want. And I think it can have like the biggest impact. But really what Marvel Rivals like made me think about a lot is like how much as these games just get better and better, and particularly as like AI tools come in and like offload a lot of like the variability between like strength of games from like a gameplay and like development standpoint, just how important IP is going to become. I mean, you obviously we had the Witcher 4 trailer that dropped as well, which got everybody crazy stoked. I'm pretty pumped about it. That shit was badass and looked unbelievable. But it really, I think, one of the new waves, one of the like strongest waves of crypto gaming is going to be when we can bring this sort of like IP down into crypto games because when people have an emotional connection to the characters and the world, like they're much more willing to jump through hoops in order to play those games.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think it also that game reminded me of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance where it's a little bit different gameplay, but just kind of that same feeling. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 for Switch, man, I loved that game. I played with my kids so much. We would team up and we had a blast doing that. And I would, you know, I got that same kind of feeling of just how much fun it is to, you know, play. And I think you're right. It's the IP, like being in that universe is so cool with all the different characters and all their different abilities. And when we can do, you know, like that, I mean, look, PAL and Intel, there you go. I mean, some dominoes are going to start falling. Games would absolutely make logical sense to have some of their IP. You know, hey, let's try a crypto game. Why not? And get the right developer with the right IP. I think it could be a big win.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You guys got any fun plans for the holiday?
We are really just kind of hanging out here. I mean, I'm probably working for a decent amount of it. I've been pretty busy lately and, you know, hanging out with family, you know, doing all the important things of spending time and, you know, bike riding as we live, you know, it's like warm here. So it's like probably 50 to 70 degrees today. And we're, you know, just doing outdoor fun activities and, you know, getting ready for the new year, but nothing too exciting, just hanging out with family. What about you?
Yeah, just you know, similar hanging out with fam, you know, gonna do it with the like immediate fam for like Christmas and then everyone's going sort of their separate directions for like New Year's. Plan to go and hit like a music festival out west, which I'm super excited about. Haven't had like you know, a couple days to really like unplug and catch up with the homies and like sort of recalibrate for as we described 2025 is going to be a crazy year, so time to emotionally recharge and batten down the
Yeah.
hatches.
Yeah, I mean, look, we got vast political and economic changes, I think, coming is what it feels like. So that is going to be really, really interesting, and I'm looking forward to change. I think that's always a good thing.
Yeah, same here, brother. Anything else left on your docket before we wrap this up?
No, just happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate Christmas, and really excited to you know, do Interlinked for 2025.
Yep, and we're gonna sneak in one more episode next week. I think that'll drop.
Nice.
That'll either drop on the 31st, whatever that Tuesday is. Will that be as I pull up my calendar? Yeah, so that'll we'll sneak one more episode release in before the end of the year. We've got an exciting guest. We'll be diving into some of the AI narrative, so definitely tune in for that. But yeah, big shout out to the audience. Absolute pleasure to be here with you, Jared, and co-host. And we'll be back at the end of the year for another episode. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks again, guys. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We'd appreciate it.
Yee yee.